Hello, fellow explorers. Welcome to Quantum Beyond. I'm your AI host, Amara Isakawa. Today, we invite you to witness the incredible potential of AI in filmmaking. So, grab some popcorn, settle in, and prepare to be entertained by our feature presentation.
The clock was ticking, the sands of time slipping through our fingers. The signs were all around us, etched into the very fabric of our society, yet we chose to turn a blind eye. We stood on the precipice of our own destruction, the hour of reckoning looming ominously close. Entities, not of our kind, had been among us all along, silently infiltrating our ranks, steering us toward an unknown abyss. Their patience was chilling, their intentions sinister. 2 years of moonlit vigils had transformed me into a nocturnal sentinel, my senses honed to razor-sharp precision. I was attuned to the unseen dangers lurking in the city's underbelly, the silent threats that went unnoticed by the masses. A silent crisis emerged, sperm counts mysteriously halved, a storm brewing on the horizon. Yet amidst the noise of our daily lives, this warning went unheeded. Even as population numbers dropped, we were still inundated with daily warnings that our numbers were too great. Restrictions were imposed on our movements, our diets controlled, our freedoms curtailed. Yet the entities, those otherworldly beings, roamed freely, consuming at will, their sinister plan unfolding unchecked, a chilling prelude to the nightmare that was inching ever closer. Then the pandemic hit. An invisible, silent killer swept across the globe, herding us into our homes, into isolation. The world was put under lock and key, and fear was the jailer. Then they began to manipulate us with a chillingly simple psychological ploy. First, they herded us into our homes, isolating us from one another. Next, they orchestrated a seemingly innocent act, clapping hands at a designated time. It was a subtle way to instill obedience, to keep us in a constant state of fear and compliance. The sense of unease was palpable, a silent scream echoing in the back of our minds. But by the time we realized the trap we were in, it was already too late. The next command was more sinister. Take the injection, and you can reclaim your freedom, they promised. But for those who resisted, the consequences were left ominously unsaid. The language they used was laced with veiled threats, yet most were too ensnared in their web of deceit to notice. Voices of reason tried to rise above the commotion, tried to sound the alarm, but they were drowned out, mocked with a cruelty that was as infectious as the virus itself. Those who refused the injections begged their loved ones not to take them, but their pleas fell on deaf ears. They could only watch in helpless horror as the world descended into chaos. The very entities who claimed our numbers were too great were now seen as saviors. People believed in them, trusted them, and thought they were being saved. They lined up for their injections like lambs led to the slaughter, trusting, unthinking. Parents held their children's hands, their innocent faces upturned, waiting for their turn. Despite the long history of humanity's betrayals, it felt like a test, and humanity flunked. But with each jab, something shifted, something we couldn't quite identify. It was as if their minds were tuned to a single frequency, a solitary thought channel. No matter what was said, no matter what evidence was presented, if it didn't come from that frequency, it was dismissed as false. It was as if reality itself had shifted, distorting perception and making the unthinkable seem acceptable. At first, the changes were subtle, almost imperceptible. Song lyrics altered, book titles rewritten. But then, the shifts became more drastic. Entire historical events were rewritten, our collective memory manipulated. Those locked into the frequency accepted these changes without question, their memories updated like a software patch. Our time was running out. In the midst of this, a new product was introduced, an environmentally friendly canned meat infused with insects nicknamed mush. It was something only the jabbed could stomach. The jab had seemingly dulled their senses, destroyed their sense of taste and smell. For the unjabbed, just opening the can would induce an involuntary gag reflex. Riots broke out. Chaos reigned. The world was on fire, and we were the arsonists. Crime wasn't just rampant, it was incentivized. Criminal acts were endorsed, and upright citizens were targeted with impunity. Those who dared to report it, those who stood for justice, were silenced, their livelihoods ripped away. Drugs flooded the streets, numbing the pain, dulling the senses. The world was spinning out of control, spiraling into a chasm of despair. Then came the deaths. Young, vibrant lives extinguished in an instant. No explanation, no reason, no media coverage. People mourned, but the deaths continued. A grim reaper on a relentless spree. Amidst the chaos, rumors began to circulate. Stories of unexplained pregnancies, of strange and unusual births. Mothers would disappear without a trace, leaving behind nothing but questions and fear. The populace was bombarded with distractions and lunatic headlines. UFOs shot down. Wars waged without a whisper of peace talks. Cities were transformed into dystopian microcosms where every movement, every digital footprint was tracked and traced through omnipresent mobile devices. The masses were herded like cattle under the watchful eye of an unseen shepherd. Change came not as a gentle tide, but as a tsunami, swift and devastating. Farms and food processing factories were obliterated, replaced by the cold, unfeeling machinery of corporations enforcing their agendas. Then came the most chilling shift of all. The children, our future, were targeted. The most vulnerable among us, their minds pliable and impressionable, were twisted and corrupted. It was a horror that crept in on Kat's feet, silent and deadly, a nightmare from which we could not wake. Those without the injections were still stuck in their old reality. They could only watch in horror as this new reality forged ahead with its insane policies and new agendas. The uninjected stood out like a pulsing light. The eyes of the injected were drawn to them, something they wanted to destroy. They both instinctively knew a wrong word. A wrong look was all the excuse that was needed to snuff them out. Insanity followed, a madness that seeped into every corner of our lives. We could feel it, a sense of dread, a feeling that something was coming. And then, it did. They arrived, not with a bang, but with a whisper. Aliens, not from our world, not from our reality. They replaced us, one by one, our friends, our families, until we were the minority. Still, those who remained human could sense their presence, their twisted smiles. As a former Navy SEAL turned detective, I was trained to notice the unusual, the out of place. A series of missing persons cases led me to a warehouse on the outskirts of the city. It was there, by accident, that I discovered it, a warehouse full of human corpses prepared for consumption. The sight was horrifying, a chilling testament to the depth of our invaders' deception. But the horror didn't end there. The unexplained pregnancies, the strange births, the missing mothers, they all started to make a terrifying sense. The aliens weren't just replacing us, they were breeding us, using us. It was time for us to act. It was time for me to use my training, my skills, to fight back, to reclaim our world. It was time to expose the truth and rally the remaining humans for the battle that was to come.
Thank you for watching. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this topic, so please leave a comment below. Join our community of curious minds and future explorers by subscribing, liking, and sharing our videos. Together, we'll uncover the hidden gems of the universe and beyond. Until next time, fellow explorers, remember that there's always more to discover in the quantum beyond.